All right, crypto market update. Looking at the Bitcoin chart, we're going to focus on the Bitcoin chart just because obviously everything's correlated. So, looking at Bitcoin, we can see that we've had 4 green days. Yesterday we kind of popped a nice green 1D candle. Today, the day hasn't closed yet. It would be nice to see this push up a bit higher. If we look at the 1 week candles, we haven't closed the 1 week yet, so that'll close on Sunday, but the stochastic RSI has closed. Oftentimes, what we've seen this year anyways in this bear trend, so we have a predominance of red in the bear trend, just a predominance of selling. So looking at these green candles here, often when you have a sell-off and you've got a green candle, it usually indicates that it'll bounce. So we may be producing a green 1 week candle. Let's see. So far this 1 week candle is actually bigger than last week's candle. So slightly bigger, and the week just kind of started. So we'll see how that plays out, if it bears any fruit or not. Interesting thing, obviously, with the markets is the markets like to zigzag, right? You look at the Bitcoin price anywhere on the charts, and it zigzags. So whenever you have a zig, oftentimes we need to anticipate the possibility or probability of a zag. So if it were to bounce, let's see how this lines up. So 61.8 would be close to that 5K region, just a little bit above that. Personally, myself, my immediate targets would be 5K, 5.5, and then 6 being prior support turn resistance, that zone. I think we'll hit, if we did bounce up to that level, I think we would hit a lot of resistance there. So we'd probably have to sell off a bit. December 17th. So that just recently passed. And that's kind of the anniversary time of the top, right? So it would almost be poetic if we started to bounce, or if this were to be to capitulation bottom. We don't know if this is the ultimate bottom or not, but if it was, it would be very poetic that this is the top, and then at the same time, a year later, we hit a bottom, right? This whole area right here too is kind of significant, because this is where we start to like really ramp up. This is, from this point onwards, is where we went completely parabolic, but off of this bounce we started to ramp up, and even entertaining the possibility of topping out in the 8K 7K region, right? So this whole area right here had a very rapid price growth for Bitcoin. Interesting thing as far as news is concerned. So Tether, turns out Bloomberg just came out with an article that said they looked at the accounts of Tether, and it's possible that the naysayers were wrong, and so on and so forth. That's kind of interesting. I'd pay close attention to Bloomberg's narrative. I noticed they posted another kind of bullish article with Novogratz today, and they've been fighting really, really hard. So it'll be interesting to watch. Like, sometimes the media could be an inverse indicator, but sometimes the media could also help a trend along. A media can be advertising as well, right? For most of 2017, the media wasn't necessarily just an inverse indicator. In fact, I think the media had a lot to do with this price growth, just attracting new users. So what I'm going to be paying attention to is if all of a sudden the media starts to pull out a bullish narrative and they start shilling how great crypto is and how great Bitcoin is after fighting it for so hard and calling it dead and this and that, well, maybe, perhaps somebody filled their bags up, right? So that's just speculation, but it'll be interesting to watch that narrative, that media narrative, to see if there's actually a shift in sentiment now that prices are a lot lower. I had someone message me, an interesting message last night. Someone messaged me. They basically said they quit Bitcoin. They sold all their Bitcoin. And this is someone who's been in Bitcoin since I think 2015 or 16 or something like that. So, you know, there's definitely lots of signs of capitulation in general that we've been seeing. We've been seeing a lot of capitulation happening in general. It doesn't mean that this is the bottom, but you know, there's certainly lots of good signs. We had this interesting, you know, falling wedge here that kind of broke out, right? So it kind of broke up to the upside. If we look at the Hikinashi, let's turn green. Oftentimes, the only time this didn't happen, oftentimes you'll have a green little pause here and then a reversal, green pause and then a reversal. Here you had multiple green pauses, so you had 3 of them. So this is a lot choppier. So we'll see if this trends upwards a little bit. I'm still kind of anticipating, you know, dead cat bounce until proven otherwise. The way I'm going to manage this, the way I handle this is whatever I have on the table as trades, whether they're underwater or whether I bought them lower, will be closed out and treated as if this were a dead cat if we do bounce. And whatever I bought as long-term investments, I'm just going to hold. And I'll just hold that offline. Most of those are offline anyways now. So some will be treated as trade to hedge back into fiat, and the rest will just be an investment. January 3rd, interesting thing. Proof of keys. Anybody hear about this January 3rd event? So apparently there's a push within the Bitcoin community to called Proof of Keys starting on January 3rd, where basically encouraging people to pull off their Bitcoin off of the exchanges to, you know, show that they have their private keys and so on and so forth. Maybe it's also kind of considered a bit of an audit. But if that movement becomes popular, I don't know how much traction that movement will have. I don't know how many, you know, Bitcoiners or Bitcoin maximalists, how many of them actually trade. But that could thin out the sell side of the order book. If suddenly everyone starts pulling off their Bitcoin to prove their keys, then there might not be a lot of Bitcoin on the sell side. With a thin order book, that can certainly spike up. So we'll see how much impact that has. It might not have that much impact. I would assume that most of the serious traders that aren't necessary will probably be trading regardless. So we've had declining volume on the sell-off. We've talked about the bearish divergence, some declining volume here. What I would look for, so this 1 week candle I think will have a lot of impact. Either it doesn't do much and it just kind of creates an equal bottom like a green 1 week candle, but oftentimes when we see a green 1 week candle, like what we've seen this year anyways, is you'd have that green pause, a further drop, and then another green establish a bottom. So if this were to stay at this level, it's possible it could turn into one of these. if it were to pop up to this level here, that would actually be a very good sign. If it were to actually come up to the 4K area, that would be kind of like a bullish engulfing candle, which would take out this candle, right? And then you might see a little bit of a retrace as a result of that. When the price goes up, you see a retrace and then another push up. But we still have to deal with tax harvesting season. So, there's still a few weeks left in December. I think Q1 will definitely be an interesting time for crypto. We'll have moved past tax harvesting season. We do know we have a lot of bullish news on the horizon for the new year. And Bitcoin's just oversold. It's been bleeding out. I think too, the initial dump, Bitcoin breaking that 6K support, as far as market sentiment and crypto and Bitcoin is concerned, I think a lot of crypto's probably in shock. So once that settles, then suddenly I think people realize, oh shit, Bitcoin's at $3,600, which market psychology is very, very interesting. So then, as far as altcoins are concerned, surprise, surprise, Bitcoin has a nice little bounce. Altcoins go flying. Wave seems to actually kind of be consistently trending. Wow. So, for anyone who's in waves, this isn't a bear market at all. Right? So this is kind of consistent. This has been going for weeks now. And I like seeing, even if I'm not in a, so this is 4 solid weeks. This is like a month. So even though I'm not in a waves position, I like seeing stuff like this in crypto, whether I'm in a position or not, because it shows, well, a lot of things are correlated, but it shows the path of what other coins can also do as well, right? 1 minute, waves look extremely dead here, right? Just like a lot of coins looked extremely dead, right? Just like here, extremely dead, right? Just flat, bled out a ton, 90%, whatever it is. See what the dollar value is. Nope, that's not the exchange for that. All right, there you go. So dollar-wise, it's reaching levels, summertime levels, pretty quickly. 4 weeks, it's as if nothing happened. Right? That's why I tend to be a bit more patient with altcoins. This kind of stuff happens all the time. It's not a guarantee that's going to happen with all the altcoins, but we saw it with waves, and then there was another one we saw it with where there was where it was trending. Factum, that was another one. Let's see how that one's doing. There's usually a few that kind of pop off. This one went up, 600 and close to 700%, right? So there's usually a couple that pop off first, and again, this one looked completely dead. You'd look at it down here, it'd be like, oh, I don't want to touch that. Looks like a piece of garbage. And then next thing you know, it's up 600% in 4 weeks. So one month. Obviously, when you start to see wicks like this, it's a good indication to take profit. I'm just going to quickly look through some random stuff. Doge popped up a little bit. Interesting. This one is kind of... Actually, that's kind of sneaky. Doge went up 82% over the past few weeks. Now, dollar-wise, it might not have been as much. No, dollar-wise, it's still bled out a lot. But dollar-wise, it basically in 1 week candle, it recouped 4 weeks of selling. So basically popped up. 4 weeks of solid selling and 1 week it. So in crypto, sometimes here's the thing when you have consistent selling, right? You know, they say, oh, the markets take the stairs up and the elevator down, right? Well, sometimes if you see something that just takes the stairs down, you can pop the elevator up too. So that's interesting. I saw EOS made some nice gains. So in 1 week, it recouped 2 weeks of selling. I mean, you know, it still has a way to get to these levels. But if I were to look at possible areas of resistance, anytime I look at bounce plays, I like the 61.8% retracement level, or just that general zone. I mean, if you zoom out more on the, because there's not really any clear support resistance in this selling, right? You just see it's just really, it literally is the stairs down, just continuous selling, flatlined, large volume candle, breaks out. And this is, you know, most of this is just in 2 days. 43%, 2 days. So we'll see. Obviously, this is all dependent on Bitcoin. Bitcoin has to continue on. We need a few weeks of green on Bitcoin. If we've got a few weeks of green on Bitcoin, we're going to probably see some very interesting things happening with altcoins. Or even if Bitcoin just chills for a bit, you know, until if it doesn't break down a new low, right? That would be key. If it wants to just chop around, if it wants to pull off one of these, that would be okay. Leading up until January, then January we can get past the tax harvesting hump, and then maybe we'll see some nice action. But we know that the markets don't just go straight down, right? They zigzag. So if the markets zig, then expect a zag. Bitcoin markets, anyways, I should specify the Bitcoin markets. The regular markets, I've seen quite a few stocks that have not zagged. There are lots of, you know, anyways, I won't even go into them, but there are some stocks that just don't zag at all. But Bitcoin is a different asset class entirely. Different market, different asset class. It behaves different. Its fundamentals are different. So, for the most part, in Bitcoin's history, it always has the zigzags. And in Bitcoin's historical history, you know, after 85% drops, it tends to recover. So, obviously, you know, that could always change, but you have to look at the fundamentals, right? And if the price is low and the fundamentals are strong, I'll tell you one thing, the fundamentals for Bitcoin are stronger now than I think they've ever been, to be honest. So I can list off multiple reasons why the fundamentals are stronger than they've ever been. Well, we know all the financial products coming, but also a lot of that infighting in the Bitcoin community is gone, right? The whole block size drama is gone. That's, you know, that was plaguing Bitcoin for a couple years. Now the big blockers have their own civil war and they're fighting each other. So that's, you know, that's off of Bitcoin's plate. You know, Lightning Network's doing pretty good. From a regulatory standpoint, it's one of the safest. We're still seeing a growth in user adoption, even in 2018, even with the selling off. So I just think overall, it's pretty good. Low prices, good fundamentals. You know, when we start to see our first higher high, then we can call it a bull trend. Until then, everything's just kind of a dead cat until proven otherwise. But that's what I'm looking for, a higher high. Doesn't mean I don't buy cheap stuff or knife catch or whatever, but you know, if one wants a little bit more confirmation, you just need one higher high. That's it. We haven't had one in 2018. Also, you'll notice another thing you'll notice too on a real trend reversal is the Hikinashi on the larger time frames, like let's say the 1 week, will change color and will stay consistent, right? So look at the Hikinashi on the 1 week for most of 2018, and it's mostly red with green pauses. Just mostly red, right? Every green pause is a dead cat. Compare that to 2017, right? Just lots of green with red pauses. And then the area we're at now, this is why this is an interesting area. The area we're at now on the Hikinashi was just green, right? There was a red pause, there's a correction right here, and then it just wrapped up on that parabolic rise on the Hikinashi. You can't even see the corrections that we had. So it's just showing that buyers were in control. So we had a, 3 months of green, right? So when we start to see higher lows, we start to see a predominance of green, then we know we're in a bull trend. So we're still red, and any green is a dead cat until proven otherwise. But that's the nature of the beast. That's the nature of Bitcoin. Nature of market cycles, right? One should never despair low prices, because that's the opportunity to buy low again, and then you get to be the lucky one. Maybe in 2020 they'll say lucky you. Right? Lucky you. Look at you. You got to buy Bitcoin when it bled out 85%. They don't see all the backstory or whatever, everything that comes around that, around buying low, and anyways. So we'll end it there. Still a little bit under the weather, and we'll see you all tomorrow. Take care, folks. Cheers.